Hey brother! Oh man Jay, it is finally September 8th and it is time for the start of a new season of the best sport ever. Quidditch. To think just 1 week ago those kids were boarding the Hogwarts Express for a new school year. Can't wait to see who the Slytherins picked up this season. I wonder what the Venn diagram of Harry Potter fans and football fans looks like. I'm thinking there's not a huge cross-section there, but I'm definitely in it. I always loved when the Quidditch matches showed up in the book because it usually meant that the plot was going to advance a lot. Harry would lose all the bones in his arms, or see the Grim and faint after Dementors entered the field, or get detention from Umbridge and an indefinite suspension from Quidditch. Which is all very entertaining and everything, and it serves to move the plot along nicely, but it also does one other thing, which is to distract you from the fact that Quidditch makes no sense. In fact, in one of our earliest videos, Jay explained all of the reasons why this is true, and now just 4 short years later, I'm going to solve those problems. The biggest problem with Quidditch is, hands down, the overwhelming importance of the snitch. I mean, this sport has 99 problems and the snitch is all of them. As a refresher, in case you're not constantly rereading the books like some people we may or may not know, catching the snitch earns your team 150 points and ends the game. When I first heard that, I loved it. It sounded like such a whimsical rule to the game, but really? It's just dumb. The issue is that because it has a set value and it controls the length of the game, it is either way too powerful or not powerful at all. In all but one of the games that we see at Hogwarts, none of the team's chasers were able to achieve a score differential of more than 150 points, which means that every other game was decided by a snitch capture, and the rest of the points were basically irrelevant. Hypothetically though, and it sounds like it has, the games could last for days, which would mean that the scores would get so high that the snitch capture would become kind of meaningless. For example, imagine one team being up by a couple thousand points. It would no longer make any difference. There is very little middle ground when a snitch catch seems fair and meaningful. Imagine you lose a game 140 to 150. That means your team was up by 14 goals, aka you dominated and still lost. Snitch, please! What makes it worse is that we often hear the students talk about how the accumulated point total makes a difference across the season. If that's true, it actually encourages poor play on the part of the Seekers so that their teams can just rack up points. The other main issue with the game is broomstick regulation. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is just not fair that some brooms are actually faster and more controllable than others. It's like one team is allowed to use steroids and the other isn't. And regardless of how the brooms compare to one another, more importantly is how they compare to the snitch. Now, we all know snitches be crazy, and that's a good thing. The crazier the better. But it's hard for them to be crazy when broom technology is actually outpacing them. And as we just outlined, that really affects the game a lot because the shorter the game, the more valuable the snitch is. You can't advance the brooms and just leave it a basic snitch. So how do we fix it? I have a few simple solutions. First, let's set a time limit for the game. Personally, I think 4 hours seems reasonable. For one, playing for days seems crazy, but as a fan, how are you even supposed to plan for that? Who wants to buy tickets to a game they may not be able to see the end of? And what about student teams? Are they allowed to miss class if the match isn't over? Hey, can we make this game last all week? I've got an exam on Friday I'd really like to get out of. It also gives the teams enough time to score a lot while still keeping the snitch relevant. But it gives it a different role because instead of ending the game, it just gives the team with the catch a huge bonus. Momentum can be extremely critical in sports. For example, per the current rules, if you are down 100 to 300, you barely have any incentive to catch the snitch because even if you do, you lose. But on the other hand, if it's just worth 150 extra points, it immediately puts your team back in the running with a huge momentum shift. It also stops point accumulation from being a problem because everyone is always encouraged to score as many points as they possibly can within the same amount of time. Like, seriously, Crumb catching the snitch is so dumb. What, to put his team out of their misery? Yeah, because that's how pro athletes think. They lose that game 170 to 160. It's not like Bulgaria needed to score 15 more times. They needed to score twice. Of course, if the snitch is catchable mid-game, then what becomes of the seekers after it's caught? My thought is instead of 3 chasers, you have 4, with 1 having a specific designation as seeker. This means pre-catch, you can either have your seeker look for the snitch, or play as the additional chaser role and have 1 man up on the opposing team. If you have ever watched hockey or soccer or water polo, that's a big Venn diagram, you know how big of an impact going up 1 player can be. And lastly, you would just need to regulate the broom so that everyone either had to ride the same one, or there were certain specifications that you had to meet or could not exceed. And boom, there you go, Quidditch fixed. See you at the World Cup. For my question of the day, what do you guys think? Should the snitch end the game, or should it just count as additional points? Leave your thoughts in the towel section down below. Guys, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you'd like to see everything else that's wrong with Quidditch, you can click right here. Or if you'd like to see all of our Harry Potter content, we've put together a playlist with all of it in one place. You can click right here. Jay, that is everything that I've got for you today, man. I will see you on Tuesday.